Okay, so this will be the third time? Yeah. So you had the Roman Empire, and the western half of the Roman Empire fell in the late 300s, or sorry, the late 400s, so the late 5th century. And the eastern part of the Roman Empire, which had already adopted Christianity at that point, we remember as the Byzantine Empire. Now, Persians, uh, we remember different dynasties of the Persians, but this was the Sasanian period or the Sassanid period. Now, it seems like the Persians and the Romans were perpetually at war with each other. There was some peaceful periods, but then some like jackasses like Julian the Apostate decided to pick a fight with the Persians, and he got killed. Thank God. Um, which I never say about anybody's death, but um, really, he was no loss. Um, these were the two big superpowers on the block, and yes, the Persians needed help from the White Hun, the Hephthalite, uh, but you know the Romans had used Vandals and Visigoths in the past. That's actually what cost them the West, using uh, these foreigners as auxiliary troops, training them, and then when you don't feed them or their families, they tend to rebel. Um, but the Byzantines and the Persians weren't stupid. Uh, it's not like there was a border between what was Persian and what was Byzantine. You had two buffer kingdoms, the Ghassanids and the Lakhmids. The House of Ghassan was Monophysite, and there were many Monophysites in Egypt, um, Syria, and Eastern Anatolia, but mainly Egypt. So they were very friendly. Even though it was technically a heresy in the empire, Heraclius was going around furiously trying to mend the rift that was growing between the Monophysites and the uh, non-Monophysites, or the Chalcedonians and the non-Chalcedonians, I guess you would call them. Um, there was another group because the Monophysites had believed that, and this is very important to understand why they disagree, that Christ was basically 50% God, 50% man, whereas the Chalcedonians said he's 100% God, 100% man. And then the the Assyrian Church of the East, the church that exists in Persia, which was founded by the patriarch of Constantinople named Nestorius, who expounded an idea that said it's like, you know, you have two pieces of wood, one with the name God on it, another one with the name human on it, and you glue them together. And that's how Christ is both God and man. And everyone said, no, that's totally incorrect. As well as the fact that he would not say Theotokos, Mother of God. He would say that Jesus was, that Maria, the Virgin Mary, was the mother of Christ, the mother of the Messiah, the mother of Jesus, but not the mother of God, because people might misunderstand it and think that we're talking about the mother of the Trinity, which, no. Making up a straw man that somebody possibly, the idea that somebody could possibly make up a straw man in the future is ludicrous. So no. So he ran away to Persia, and Persia welcomed him with open arms because they said, "Hey, look, here's a version of Christianity that the Romans don't like, they hate, and Christianity is growing a lot, so we could use this to our advantage." Thus was born the Assyrian Church of the East, because the Persians were largely Zoroastrian, um, just as the Byzantines were largely Christian, although there were Jews within there and Samaritans and Rahmani and pagans, and there were among you know the Persians you had Christians and Zoroastrians and Manichaeans and Mandaeans and polytheists, you know, and Jews. But the Gassanids were Monophysite, hardcore, and they came from a long line of kings that were Monophysite. So they got on like a house on fire with Egypt and Syria. They really liked them. And many from Egypt and Syria just went over and joined the Gassanid army anyways, because they felt more of a kingship to them than they did the Byzantines that were, you know, all the way in Constantinople. The Lakhmids were a series of pagan kings, and Lakhmia was shared a border with the Gassanid kingdom, and they were there was one famous incident where I believe his name was Mudar third, raided a convent and kidnapped 400 virgins slash nuns and burned them alive to the goddess Al Uzza, which was the Arab version of the goddess Venus. Uh, this did not sit well with a lot of people. Just like as Duke Noas, a fanatical Jewish convert, um, sieged the village of Nadran and offered the people of Nadran, because it was a Christian village, safe passage out. He just wanted the goods that were in there. And when they came out, he slaughtered every man, woman, and child. And this caused Axum, because Ethiopia was Christian at this time, had been Christian for a long time, um, came in and took vengeance upon those who had slaughtered the people of Nadran, and taught Dunduas a lesson. And this is actually recorded in the Quran of what the Ethiopian king did, you know, to this evil, wicked man. So tensions were high. The last king of the Lakhmid kingdom converted to Christianity. We don't know what type of Christianity. People say Nestorian Christianity, but it might have been a very Judaized form of Christianity, or maybe Alkazite or Nesrine or Ebionite. And he had two daughters, and all signs show that he was devout. And the emperor of the Sasanians, the Persians, wanted his two daughters as his concubines, as his sex slaves, basically. And the daughters said no, and the father said no. Um, no, they wanted to either marry a man one man, have children, or be celibate. So what happened was is that the burning 400 women, innocent women, that's fine. But not giving your daughters up as sex slaves, that's intolerable. So the king of Persia, I think it was Khosrow the second, had had the Lakhmid king trampled to death by elephants, and I believe he burned the daughters alive. Now keep in mind the army was loyal to the king, not to necessarily Persia, because Persians were Aryans and considered themselves better than the Arab scum. You know, the Arabs were different than the Persians, and they were also different than the Greeks and the Egyptians. Um, so the Arabs always felt themselves different, and they were kind of looked down upon, even though they were the main defense against any invasion from the uh, the Byzantines. Now, the Byzantines and the Persians had just got done fighting a 30-year long war. 30 years of hardcore warfare. And they annihilated each other, annihilated each other's troops, everything. But there were still one kingdom that was still standing still had a standing strong army, the Ghassanids, and another kingdom because the Lakhmid kingdom was just after the king was killed, it got absorbed into the Persian um, empire. It wasn't autonomous anymore. But the army was roving around and being bandits and pirates, or as they do. Um, so they started taking over because both superpowers had just fought a 30-year long war that just weakened them, extremely weakened them. And yeah, so when the Gassans finally joined in, um, because the Gassans probably had more in common with the Lackmans than they did with, you know, the upper crust of the aristocracy in Constantinople, and the Lackmans probably have more in common with the Gassanids than they did with the Persians, who probably didn't even speak the same language as them, and they both spoke Syro-Aramaic, and the name for God in Syro-Aramaic is Allah. So, um, you can see why there was no battle for Egypt when the Egyptians saw the Gassanids walking in. Liberation. Hey, these are our friends. Hell, we know half of them. Um, and since a multinational, multilingual empire was tied together not by an ideology but by a religion, in one case, um, Eastern Orthodox Christianity, in another, Zoroastrianism. Um, with the rapid growth of the Saracens or the Ishmaelites or the Hagarenes, uh, you get these oral stories that look like they come out of exactly where I just spoke about. Not to mention that all of the flora and fauna, like grapevines, grape orchards, raising cattle, mountains, sheep, um, olive orchards, um, all the flora and fauna, and even the trade routes don't match a city that is called Mecca that didn't exist during the 600s. And Yathrib just was the name of the city. Medina was just means the town. You know what other place was called Medina? Jerusalem, the city. So yeah, the Quran probably is from Palestine and Iraq, and it mentions goddesses like Al Uzza, Manat, Alat that were worshipped by the Lakhmids. Um, so that'll be the end of part one. But yeah, it was the power vacuum, and the fact that the Persians really messed up by killing the king and annexing Lakhmia, and you had an army without a you know without a country and bunch of weakened states surrounding them, so they were able to take whatever they wanted. Peace to you.